Can you hear me? Can you see me? Is the lighting terrible here? I am slightly concerned that the lighting isn't great, but I can't really tell, so we're just going to have to sacrifice it for the beauty of the outdoors. You may also have to sacrifice the sound quality because there's tons of birds everywhere. This may be a terrible idea, but you know what? I just wanted to sit outside because it's nice outside, but I also needed to film this video, so I thought, hey, it seems reasonably quiet out here today, why not try and share it with you? So here we are to do a TBR. What an introduction. This video is my TBR video for the Finish-a-thon, which is a readathon that is running from the 27th of July to the 2nd of August, and is run by the wonderful, beautiful, incredible Tasmin of Tea Books and Tasmin. So I will link her channel and her Instagram and the Twitter that she created specifically for the readathon down below. But this is the perfect readathon, like honestly. I feel like I've just been waiting for this readathon and not even realising it. The idea is in the title. This readathon is all about finishing books you've already started. So if you're like me, someone who often reads multiple books at a time, puts books down to come back to, reads bits of books, then gets carried away with other books, this is exactly the readathon that I feel we need, because I have quite a few books that I need to finish, and more really than actually is even on this TBR, but I set myself a few rules. So the books in this TBR, which are 8, and I know that's a lot, and usually there's no way in high heaven I would read 8 books in a week. I've lost my train of thought, but first off, obviously these books are all books I've already started, so I'm either at least halfway or a third of the way through. None of them I'm less into. I haven't picked books I've only read like a chapter of. I have to be like past halfway or a third of the way. I don't know why I keep saying it like that, because a third of the way is obviously less. But some of them are even more than a halfway through and I just still haven't finished for whatever reason. And especially since I just moved up to Edinburgh, and right at the beginning of lockdown I came up to Edinburgh and left all my stuff in London, but now I'll have all my London stuff here after 3 or 4 months of not having it. There were quite a few books that I was reading in London but didn't bring with me to Edinburgh, so were left there unfinished without me even intentionally doing that. So now I obviously have the opportunity to finish those. Then there are a few others that I didn't finish for various reasons that I'll maybe mention. Some of them, there's not even really a reason I didn't finish it. I just often read more than one book at a time, and that sometimes means some books get abandoned over others. So like I mentioned, I've got 8 books. I also have a couple of these on audiobook, like I can access them on audiobook, so that should make it a little bit easier to finish them. And I would love to finish all of these during the readathon, but I'm not going to sort of get too carried away. If I could finish 4 of these books, I would feel like I had completed the readathon and it was a complete success. So let's look at the books, shall we? Let's actually start with the ones that I was very much actively reading just before I left London. And the first one is The Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha and Gannon. I was even buddy reading this with my friend Kathy, but because I ended up coming to Edinburgh before I was finished it and didn't pack it, I never managed to finish it. And I am past halfway in this book. Only just past halfway, but still past halfway nonetheless. And it's book 2 in a series, the first book of which is Girls of Paper and Fire. I've mentioned it quite a few times because it's one of my favourite YA fantasy books, one of my favourite queer fantasy books. It's an incredible story about 2 young women who are forced to be the king's concubines but instead fall in love with one another, and it very much deals with unequal power dynamics, sexual assault, trauma, but also love and friendship and freedom, and it's just brilliant. Like I said, absolutely love it. Oh, it's a butterfly. So nice to be outside. And I was, like I said, reading book 2, following on with what happened after the events of book 1, which were very dramatic, and excited to see what happened in the relationship between the 2 main women who I love and really, really care about. So it will be nice to finally get to the end of that story and find out where they're at. I actually, now that I come to think of it, I'm not sure how many books are meant to be in the series, but I feel like this is not the last one, so there's probably more to come in the future. I also have a book which I'm a third of the way through as opposed to quite as far as halfway, and that is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. Again, this is one that I was reading actively, had on my bedside table just before I came up to Edinburgh but didn't bring with me. And this book is quite, I feel, an easy one to pick back up and put back down, particularly because it's sectioned into parts and each part has 3 chapters. and each chapter follows a different woman. So this is basically a collection of stories in a sense about the lives of different women, but all the women's lives are interconnected, and it does have like a novel structure. It is a novel, but because of that, because each chapter is from a different woman's perspective, it makes it quite easy to put down and pick back up, which I think is a good thing, because obviously I did have to put it down because I came up here, but now I feel like I can pick it back up right at the beginning of a story, which is where I am. In fact, right at the beginning of a section, which is where I am, and it should be really easy to get back into, and it was beautifully written from what I've read so far, and I'm just excited to carry on because obviously this has had a lot of high praise. It won the Man Booker Prize last year, and you know, I haven't heard a bad word about it, and from what I've read, that stands pretty true. We then have Lair of Dreams, which is another one I'm a bit of a third way through, but it's quite a big book, so that's an achievement in itself. And this is another sequel. Don't know why, but actually there's quite a few sequels here, because there's another book that I've got that's the second in a series, and this is the sequel to The Diviners by Libba Bray, and I loved The Diviners. The Diviners, I'm pretty sure I gave 5 stars. That was like an incredible book set in 1920s New York with a paranormal mystery at its centre, and in general I love Libba Bray's writing. But there's something about Lair of Dreams which I don't dislike, but it feels quite different. Like, it's not got the same same type of mystery as book 1, because book 1 has a serial killer, so you get very involved in figuring that out, whereas this is a different kind of mystery, and it wasn't necessarily what I was expecting, so I was reading it a little bit more slowly, and it took me a little bit to get into, and because of that I haven't had a chance to like zoom through it yet. But I think this is one of those books that when I do get a few more chapters in, I won't be able to put down, and will spend like a day just reading, which is what I did with Libba Bray's other series, starting with The Great and Terrible Beauty. Once I got into those books, I read them all in like the space of a week. I couldn't stop reading them. I put aside everything else I was doing. So I'm hoping that will be the case with this, because then that would be ideal for the readathon, and obviously the series gets a lot of praise, people adore it, and I did love book 1, and I do really like the characters, so I'm looking forward to carrying on. I also have book 2 in the Shadowfell series by Juliet Marillier, and this is Ravenflight. This is Juliet Marillier's YA series, so most of her books are adult books. She is my favourite fantasy writer, and she has this more YA series which is also kind of different from her other books because it's very much like an overarching plot line, whereas a lot of her other books, although they're in series, each story is kind of like compartmentalized, like it stands by itself and has a beginning and the end, whereas the end of book 1 in the series was not the ending of anything. It was very much the beginning of more things, which carry on in book 2, and I, like I said, just didn't get a chance to finish before I came up to London, so it'll be really nice to carry on with this. I think I'm about a third of the way through this too, which is starting to frighten me, how many of these books I'm only a third of the way through. So let's look at some books I'm actually halfway through to give me a little bit more encouragement then. Both of these books I put down for the same reason, and that's because these are both quite sad books. And if I'm not in the right frame of mind for a sad book, because perhaps other things are going on in my life, or I'm going through something, or I'm just like, you know, trying to take care of myself in a way that doesn't include sad books, I sometimes have to put down what is otherwise a spectacular novel and just come back to it in the future, whereas just now I feel like in a headspace that I can handle a sad book, so this is actually quite good. It means I can finish these. The first one is an adult one, and it's Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. This is actually inspired by the Greek myth of Oedipus, but set in the contemporary world, and it's stunning. It is very, what you'd probably refer to as literary. The prose are very beautiful, and the beautiful prose are one of its selling points. The blurb frames the story as if it's about Gretel, and it is about Gretel, but it's also about other characters. It's like a book that follows multiple different people at different points in time, and Gretel grew up with her mother on a barge boat but hasn't seen her since she was 16, but then gets this phone call that sort of reawakens questions about her past. But like I said, we do follow sort of other storylines, particularly like about like Gretel's mother and the background behind Gretel's family, and like I said, beautiful, but had just like this forlornness to it that meant at the time I felt like I had to put it down, but I am really looking forward to finishing. Similarly, we have Moonrise by Sarah Crossan. So this is a YA book, and it's actually a YA book written in verse, which I think is fantastic. I love books written in verse, particularly YA written in verse, and I've previously read one other book by Sarah Crossan, which was actually called One, and it was written in verse and it was spectacular. So I was so excited for this book when it came out, because it's about a young boy whose older brother is in prison, and he moves in order to be closer to his brother. Now that he's old enough to sort of live by himself, he moves closer to the prison his brother is in so that he can stay in contact with his brother. And as you can imagine, it's just quite a sad story. I mean, it's incredibly sad and unfortunate circumstances that have led to the events of this book, and I was really enjoying it. It's such a quick book to read because of the verse style. Like, imagine reading that. The rhythm, for one, makes you just read through it really quickly, but also it's less text than prose. However, like I said, it was sad, and I was reading it in a time when I really could not handle sad, so got halfway through and then had to put it down, and I was kind of pushing myself a little bit towards the end of those chapters I read because I was not in the right frame of mind. But now I feel like I could go back to it. I did actually cry when I read One, so I know her books are emotional, and I'm sure this will still be emotional, but it's just whether you're in the right frame of mind, like I mentioned, to handle that kind of emotion, and I think I could now. So this should actually be quite quick and makes me feel a little bit more positive about my ability to finish these books. We then have two more books, the first one of which is Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I know so many of you would be so pleased to see me finish this, because I'm not sure there's any other book I've been recommended more times than Uprooted, and I am actually halfway through it. Sorry to tell you, I started it ages ago and still haven't finished it. I started it for a video that never happened. So I started it for a reading vlog that I never carried on filming, and because of that, I can't remember what was going on in my life, but I think I had to put down some books and things were quite busy, and didn't finish the vlog, and then also didn't finish this book. However, I want to finish this book. It's still got the bookmark in it. I still know where we're at, what's happening. It was very dramatic. Some like big plot twists slash like events happen that are going to affect the forward motion of the book, and yeah, I was enjoying it. I will say though, I was enjoying it. However, there was one element that I really didn't like, and I don't know how it's going to carry on in the book, but that is that there's an attempted rape or sexual assault at one point in this book. It's attempted, it does not take place, but it is attempted. However, it's very much brushed over, and I do not like that. I think if you're going to introduce even hints at sexual violence in your story, then you really need to tackle what that means and how that affects people, and what it says about your society. And I didn't feel like the book was doing that, so that annoyed me, and that might have been another reason why I didn't carry on, but that may be dealt with as the book goes on, and there was other things about it I was very, very much enjoying. So I do want to read it and finish it, because I know all of you think I will love it, and I think you're right. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling about a girl from a village who is taken away to be the servant of this wizard known as the dragon. The dragon every few years comes to their village and takes a girl to be his maid, basically. And then when she leaves again in a few years, she gets lots of money and is able to start a new life. But they don't really know what happens when she's there. And our protagonist is taken, much to her surprise. She wasn't expecting to be the young woman that was taken that year, and it's about her learning her new role and the background of this wizard and what's going on, and also potential dangers of magic that might affect her home and her family. So really, really good, really looking forward to finishing that. And then lastly, we have another book I'm halfway through, and that is the Gilda stories by Jill Gomez. This book is fantastic. Cannot tell you why I didn't finish this. Sometimes I feel like if I start a book for a reading vlog, and I might have started this during a Queerlit readathon vlog, and then the vlog ends, I can sometimes not finish the book because I've lost my momentum slightly, which is not the best. But that may be what happened with this, I'm not entirely sure. I was really enjoying it though. I was really enjoying all of these books. These are not books that I wasn't enjoying and don't want to read. These are books I want to read. This is a historical novel, but not only is it a historical novel, it's also a vampire novel. So it's about Gilda, a young black woman who escaped slavery in the 1950s and goes to work in a brothel which is owned by a sort of strange, otherworldly woman who turns out to be a vampire. And Gilda is sort of introduced to this world of endless life, and it is a vampire novel, so it is paranormal, but from what I read, it felt very historical and in a sense slightly literary. Like, it doesn't feel like you're reading a paranormal book for the sake of a paranormal book because you really like vampires. It feels like you're reading a book through which the vehicle of paranormal and vampires is used to explore other topics. and I really like that, and I think from what I read it was done very effectively. There's also female-female romance and love in this book, and again, was loving it, really want to finish it. So those are my 8 books that I'm currently in the process of reading and really would like to finish during the finish-a-thon. That's my TBR. I would love to know what books you're currently reading, whether you're taking part in the readathon or not, or whether now you think you might, since this has maybe been a little bit of inspiration. I think such a fun concept. We'll of course link everything down below in the description box. And let me know which one of these you think I should prioritise and make absolutely sure I finish, because I'll really love. That would also be great to hear. So yeah, thanks for watching. Until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye everyone.